Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I hope you enjoy my bun. It was, as you know, a record high in my town of Woodland Hills. We hit 121 on Sunday, and I went swimming on Sunday and Monday, Saturday, every day. And my hair is swimmer hair. So enjoy my bun on my YouTube page, you guys. But let's get into the fun weekend and everything that people were doing. I thought this was pretty juicy. This is Nicole, no, sorry, Sophia Richie, not Nicole, Nicole's sister. Sophia Richie, who I think is still only about 21 years old, with Jaden Smith, who looks pretty hot. They're both wearing pink bathing suits, and his body is very good, and she's hot. And as you know, she dated Scott Disick for the last few years. And it was a huge age difference. I mean, I think he's about 40 now or 38, 39. He started dating her when she was 18 and he was like 36. They're together many years. And Courtney seemed to embrace her and enjoy her, which is interesting now because Courtney's other best friend, according to social media, is what's her name? Addison Rae, who is the number one, or Charlie D'Amelio. Anyway, she's like the main TikToker who kind of created the dances. She's very cute. She's 19. She's a multimillionaire because of TikTok. They hang out. So, whatever. What's interesting is that Jaden used to date Kylie Jenner. In fact, I remember being at one of their parties and the two of them were teenagers and they were a couple. And I want to say that he was a total delight to talk to, engaging, talking to, the parents' friends. And so they dated for a few years and they're holding hands. There's other pictures of them. They enjoyed the beach. It was hot. So let's see. Who knows where it'll go if it was just, but kind of interesting. Okay. Also, you guys, Kim Kardashian is going to start a home line or line of home goods. Now, we don't know what this will be. And Kim has always had great taste. But in the last few years since she's been married to Kanye, it's just been just all beige, all flat, all different shades of nude. And so I'm just really curious to see everything she does touch turns into gold and success, from the Skims to the makeup to everything. So I'm not doubting this will too, but I just wonder what it'll be. Will it all just be nude couches with different shades of nude pillows and then maybe you just want to buy one thing and maybe you're like a young girl in a simple apartment, but you get I don't know, some nude vase that looks like it's, kind of just shapely and like a pottery. I'm curious to see. So good for her. But here's a photo of her house and it looks like a church from the olden days, just very plain, nothing hung on the walls, no wallpaper, no throw pillows of color, no texture. It's just all one thing. So interesting. This is very sad, you guys. The good news is that this couple's having a boy, and they were so excited that they were pregnant, very wanted pregnancy. They decided to throw themselves a big gender reveal party. I don't know how big it was, but they use some type of thing to blow it up so that you could see the what colors it was. I don't know. It was anyway, it caught a fire, and the fire burned 10,000 acres of land. Nobody was hurt, but I think maybe some structures may have been burned as well, but it may have just been land. And that's because of a gender reveal party, you guys. And I've told you I'm jealous that they didn't exist in my day. It would have been another opportunity to have a party and make it about me. But enough with this shit, you guys. I mean, just go to the doctor. If your husband's with you, then you call everybody on speaker on the way home. Maybe you stop by. Maybe you go to the grandparents' house and pack up a pink or a blue outfit. I don't know. But certainly let's not do any more. Balloons aren't good for the environment. And neither is blowing up stuff that then catches on fire. They know who the couple is. They are now being hit with $8 million bill in retribution. That means throughout their life, they're going to have to pay something every month. Does that mean the baby that little boy that's still in utero, the amount of pressure he has on him. And here's the thing now, they have not announced this couple's name, and I hope that they don't, because obviously that wasn't their intention to burn down, even though it was dumb, 10,000 acres of land. But people were there, and that there was some type of Facebook thing before, but I don't know if they actually saw it catch on fire or like later on. I don't know how they linked it back, or right away did they call the fire department and it was already just such bad conditions that it got out of control. But imagine if you went there, imagine if you're the grandmother. I mean, how stressed the mom-to-be must be, how awful she must feel. I don't know how these people are going to get out of it, but maybe it will stop these gender reveal parties. And also what's interesting, you guys, is we're in this world where everybody's fluid and it's not supposed to be about your gender anyway. So I don't know why why it became so popular. And even the woman that started the gender reveal party, she did an article recently that her daughter is like 8 and identifies as a boy. So there goes your trend. Maybe we just end that. Maybe this is the end of the gender reveal parties. However, I'm going going to one in 2 weeks, which I'm excited about because I like the couple. They're Peter's cousins. They're adorable. It's their first kid, and it's a chance to get together. So I guess I'm a hypocrite because I'll probably have some cocktails and enjoy the party. But at least we know it won't use anything that would cause a fire. All right, you guys, let's talk about Real Housewives of New York. The last 3 minutes, I'm still shaking, and it aired on Thursday. You guys know that Dorinda, it was announced early last week that Dorinda was no longer going to be on the show. She did a beautiful goodbye. I love Bravo. I love for the production company. On to greener pastures. Everybody started talking. Wait, nobody quits. Wait, what happened? They already filmed the reunion. Why now? Why before the season was even done? Did they announce it? Well, very juicy. So the show starts, and we see Dorinda in her confessionals, and she's being a little cheeky. She's being a little fun. And I think the consensus of the people at home were like, fuck, I didn't like her this season. She was really mean to Tinsley, saying, maybe get that turkey baster and finally get pregnant, ha ha, and on. And the Lou, at least you didn't have a mugshot. At least you don't have a little mugshot. And Sonia, Sonia, she was okay too, but then with Ramona, she gets up at the Halloween party and she's like, I just want to make a toast. Do you think it's nice when a friend says, have you been drinking when you haven't been drinking? That's the first thing they say to you when you talk to them at a Halloween party. I'm talking to you, Ramona. Like, there were so many of it. Mean to Luann, just a lot. So we start to watch the episode, and the final scene is we see Luann do her song, and final party is drag queen bingo with Sonia, who, by the way, had packed on a few LBs, wasn't looking great, admitted to it. Oh, they also worked in a really great app commercial. It was one of the most seamless commercials I've ever seen on a show. So kudos to Leah that made that just seem pretty nice. But she was going to go on exercise classes with Leah. We know she, after quarantine, lost a lot of weight and got an amazing facelift. So Sonia looks really amazing. But this last scene, she wasn't looking that great. But she was her fun, delightful, funny self. So it's the end of the night, and Ramona's there, and she brought the weird guy, Tom, that's made out with everybody. He's like the new Harry Duber. And Leah's there, and everyone starts to toast, and they start doing their little, like, things at the end. Like, Luann is hoping to go back on tour when COVID is done. Leah is doing great, whatever. And then Leah says, and I just want to say to you guys, it was Tinsley who introduced me. Don't start that shit. Don't bring her up. Don't bring her name up. She goes, what? Fuck you. Fuck you, Leah. Fuck you. And I'm like, Jesus. So then they're like, what's going on? And now we see the cameramen. They break the fourth wall. And they're all sitting down. And Leah goes, oh, my God, I was just going to say that by Tinsley leaving, I got to bond with you guys. And she jumped all over me. Like, I don't get it. She walks up, she goes, you know what? She almost ruined our show. You don't toast Tinsley, okay? You know what? It's bullshit. And they all know it. And she's pointing to all the producers. She breached her contract. And Ramona's like, please, you're spitting on us. You're splitting. And she's got her hand in a sling because she had to her arm in a sling because she had like a hand operation. And then Lou goes, wow, that arm's working pretty well now because that's right in Lou's face along with her spit. And she's got this turban on her head. And I mean, it is beyond shocking. So after watching that, I just really had to take it all in and analyze it for you guys. Couple things. Let's just start with when I went to BravoCon in November. I went to a meet the producers talk, and it was like the last day, like the last event, and it was like maybe 2 guys from New York, 2 from Potomac, and 2 from Atlanta, and people were asking different questions, and they were absolutely revealing, each of them, that they're closer to certain cast members. And they just get along, or they talk to them when they're not filming. And I remember sitting back and being like, isn't that kind of like a conflict of interest? Like, isn't it almost like they're the teacher and this is a classroom, and if you're going to be able to go to the teacher's house on the weekends to her beach house or whatever, she may give you a better grade. Is that really fair to the rest of the class, you know? So this one guy who works for New York raised his hand, or not raised his hand, but he answered a question of someone asking. And he goes, I'm closest to Dorinda. She calls me every morning between 7 and 8 a.m. and we talk for about an hour. Well, now they're filming during this time. And I was like, that doesn't really seem like that would be, I don't know, the right thing to be doing. But okay, because clearly if she had a problem with somebody or she's having a problem with somebody, she's talking to this guy for an hour. It's not going to be about what's going on, you know, in the news or in the Middle East. It's going to be about their show. So then I started reading articles saying that it was the production company, that a couple of people had turned on her, said, we will not return and work on New York if she returns. And I think what happened is that is why they decided, listen, we're going to let her go. We're going to get shit from the fans. But then on Thursday, they're going to see the real Dorinda. They're going to see how she screamed at us. They're going to see how she spit on people. They're going to see the venom she has towards Tinsley, which still is very confusing to people. And when I had Carol Radswell on early in the season, I said, why is Dorinda out for Tinsley? And she hinted as like, I think something happened. I think she and John and Tinsley and Tinsley's boyfriend, who's now her fiance, the Coupon King, they went on some trip to like Dubai or something, and something happened. And then when I interviewed Elise, she was defending Dorinda, and she goes, well, there's more to that story than what we're seeing, why she's upset. So we still don't know. But when you say about breaching the contract, everything, it's exactly what I always say. After a few years, these girls look at it as a job. And they get pissed if they have to film any more than somebody else. They get pissed if they're not making the most amount of money. They get pissed if someone's making more and getting out of it, getting special treatment, don't have to go to events, because it's just not fun anymore. And it's a lot of stress. And I think that she started to feel that. And then throughout the season, we saw that she was crying about Richard, you know, her husband who died in 2011, because she had to redo the Berkshire's house by herself. And she's like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. I did everything right. I did everything right. And I think she was trying to say, I did everything right. Like, I married this wealthy guy after my divorce, and it's not fair that he died. And now I'm 55. I broke up with John. I'm on this show, and I don't have the life I thought I should have, the life I deserve to have, which is being a 55-year-old woman with my now husband of 15, 20 years and, you know, enjoying life. And I think when she saw that Tinsley was really going to have a second chance at this, including having babies with the Coupon King, it just made her jealous that she came from money, that she got divorced, that she is now rising up again, that she's going to have a whole nother chance with a young guy, have children. Maybe Dorinda regrets not having a baby with Richard. I don't know. But she's going to write a book, or the book is already, she has a publishing deal. And if I was her publisher, I would say, I don't care if this book is done. We've got to add the last chapter or two about what happened with Tinsley, what happened in that season, why you freaked out, how the fame has changed you, why you're glad you're not on the show anymore, and what you hope to accomplish going forward. And because it is a mystery. And if the mystery was solved in her book, people would buy the book. So there's my advice to you, Dorinda. But other people said something interesting. They're like, she's very much into projecting what she's feeling to other people. And they brought up the scene with Bethany a couple seasons ago when she arrived to the Bethany dinner with the people that were helping the victims in Puerto Rico. And she started to question the guy's charity work and if people, I can't remember, but she was awful. And she got up to Bethany and she said, "You ruin everything, Bethany. Everything was nice and then you ruined it." And someone's like, that's almost like her thinking about her, talking about herself. Like, everything was great. And then I came down here drunk and ruined it. But she's also revealed to people, like, she wasn't expecting to shoot that night. And she had some drinks in the day and wasn't ready to go shoot and was forced to shoot. And hey, a lot of the drinking stuff does not make you look good on TV. I wouldn't want a camera following me around when I've had drinking in Miami all day. So very excited to watch that reunion, which starts this Thursday. Real Housewives of Potomac. You guys, it's fun. They're at the lake and the juice has hit. Again, the final 5 minutes of the episode is all you care about. This girl, Ashley, who's married to Michael, who I've told you is the Australian who had, people make assumptions that he has like touched men inappropriately in the past and had relationships with a man in the past. He's denied it all. Everything was dropped. They just had a baby. He's away for the weekend while they're at the lake house. He's doing business dinner. And this girl, Candace, gets a text from someone she knows who works at like a casino or something. And he's there with a couple strippers asking them to come back to his hotel room or his apartment. And he says, in earshot of this girl that she knows who's a bartender there, "I have a wife and a boyfriend." And so then she breaks the fourth wall and it says to the two cameramen, "We're going to blur, here's the text, but we're going to blur out my friend's name, right?" "Yes, we will." She goes and tells Giselle about it. And she is just shocked. And she's like, "Oh, God." So then they all go to dinner at some crab place. And she's like, "I've got something to tell you." And that's next week. Now, here is where it would get so hard if you're on the show. Okay, so he went to a business dinner. He went out at some bars and he's talking to some people and they have a photo of him at the casino. Is there evidence of him with other women? Well, there was a video that came out before the episode aired where it sounds like him, it looks like his body, and there's a girl in a hotel room with him and she taped it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that couple. You guys, 90 Day Fiancé, I just want you guys to know that Coltee has started an OnlyFans page, and it's $25 per month. Some of the photos I've seen is him with just whipped cream on his man boobs and genitals. Another one is him in a bathtub, and somebody wrote, who posted that, like, "Oh my God, who is taking these photos?" And I thought, it's got to be his mother, Deb. They live together, and I believe he's single right now. So I just can imagine Deb being like, "Well, Coltee, he didn't know what else to do with all this fame and all these girls just throwing themselves at him. So he started doing this thing called OnlyFans, and, people want to get to know the real Coltee. So we do some photos. I'm not the best photographer, but I tell him, hey, get on the rug, open up your top." He was taking a bubble bath the other night, and I said, "Let me just get a couple photos of you just being natural. After I wash your back, we'll do some iPhone photos." And then, I always like whipped cream because I'm a Jell-O girl, and I like Jell-O with whipped cream on top. And so Coltee likes to use my whipped cream to do a little more risque stuff. I heard you get more people that want to subscribe to more risque that you do. But there's lots of great people on OnlyFans. There's Black China. There's other people from 90 Day Fiancé, I guess. So they want me to do it, but I don't know if anyone wants to see this body. So I think I'll just feature the cats and Coltee for now. So get ready for that one, you guys. Then this news was quite shocking. It's all over Variety and everything else. The hit show Mom, CBS hit show with Anna Faris. Anna announced that she is leaving Mom this season, which would have been her 7th year, or maybe she finished 7th, but from what I looked at, that she was committed to doing 8 years of it. So this is very confusing to people, including myself, because they actually were going to start filming it again. Now, this is a live studio audience, so I assume that they weren't going to do it in front of people, but they were a lot of production. I'm doing a show tomorrow. They're making me take a COVID test right when I get there. I'm going to be in a room by myself, but we're working with other people. So production is starting to open again with the proper precautions. So they were going to start next week. And they announced on Friday, which also you announce these things on Friday of a 3-day weekend because nobody's working on Friday, and it didn't really get picked up that much. And she's like, it's been great, but we're leaving. And then the Mom producers and CBS said, we wish Anna the best, and onward and upward. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're going to start shooting in a week. And we're really supposed to believe that they mutually decided that she no longer wants to do the show, and they're completely okay with that. Okay, you guys, you need to know that a television sitcom script at that caliber takes a very long time to write, perfect, punch up, get everything done. You know weeks in advance which script is going to shoot when, because they have to get the set, they have to get the people, they have to cast it. If there's a guest star, they have to decorate it. If it's like a pizza party, where's the location? There's a lot that goes into a production like this. So to be hit, if we're really going to believe that a week before, they're like, oh, she's not in anymore. Oh, okay, we'll just throw away these 7 scripts that we wrote that cost millions and millions of dollars in writers' salaries and chuck that. And now we're going to tell the writers, oh, okay, now we're going to have to come up with a whole new storyline for the season in which she goes off to Montana or wherever. And we're going to also introduce new characters. But you guys don't mind, right? Because she just decided like she wants to spend more time like at Zoom school with her kid. I call BS. I don't know what the BS is. I don't know if she was forced out, if she wanted to leave. I don't. There is a bigger story here for sure because of the elements I said. You would not be happy about. Somebody is not telling the truth. Now, her podcast is still extremely popular. I saw that she just did an interview on Zoom with somebody famous, and so I'm like assuming, yeah, and maybe she didn't really want to do it anymore. But I'm just saying you can't just get out of your deal because you want to stay at home with your kid and do a podcast, and you have plenty of money, and you're just like burnt on it. You can't just do that. It's not, so something is going on. And I wish the story came out last week or 2 weeks ago when I interviewed my guest who you're going to hear from today. Her life story is extremely inspiring, interesting. I'm talking to Arielle Lorre. I just did her podcast, which is very good. I loved meeting her. She came here. And she's actually married and has been for a couple years to the writer-creator Chuck Lorre, who created Mom, as well as The Big Bang Theory, Two and a Half Men, the biggest sitcoms of the last 20 years he's responsible for. And so, I mean, God, if this would have broken a couple days ago or, a week ago when I interviewed her, maybe I would have had more scoop. I'm assuming she wouldn't be able to tell me anything either. But anyway, let's get into her life story because it's very great. It's very interesting. Lots of twists and turns, and her honesty was super refreshing. And I think you guys will really enjoy it from, humble, normal, beautiful childhood to a lot of struggling with addiction and now to where she is today, which doing great and a real delight. So here we go with Arielle. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I am here with, I think, what's going to be a very juicy interview because I've got lots of questions. Arielle Lorre, she has a great podcast over at Dear Media called The Blonde Files. She's beautiful, very pretty girl. And also you are married to Chuck Lorre. And you're probably thinking, why does that name sound familiar? Well, he's like the king of sitcoms from currently Mom is on, Big Bang, Young Sheldon, of course, Two and a Half Men, Dharma and Greg. So just the classic the uber successful sitcom. And so we're going to get into all of that. So hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
I'm glad you came.
I put on my best sweatshirt.
You look cute, though. You
I
have
was
that.
like, I haven't, this is the second time I've worn jeans since like March. Got a full beat on my face,
So
right? That's what they
what
call
have
it.
you been wearing? Just sweats and
Sweats.
leggings?
Yeah, like Kardashian, Yeezy. I know how you feel about that. I'm like, he was so ahead of this. Like if he had known, I mean, everybody is wearing like sweatshirts and sweatpants and like the spandex and the bike shorts and yeah.
Yeah,
your favorite,
right?
Yeah,
I like to see. No, I mean, I just am not. I'm not into those big white tennis shoes.
Yes. The dad shoes.
Yeah. And then, or like nursing shoes. I don't know. That I'm not really into. But hey, the style changes. It's fun to. Do you like the Skims?
What did I buy? I bought one set. It was like a fuzzy, cute little two-piece
but that's like the loungy wear. That's different Skims. I'm talking about like the Spanx type Skims.
I haven't bought the Spanx.
Well, you don't really need to use
stuff.
them. Have you worn a nude nylon turtleneck?
Probably, yes. Yeah.
That is one of the weirdest trends that I think that she
like
is 100% responsible for. Yes.
Yeah.
Just nude turtleneck, just like the fact that people are just like, you know what I would feel like going out to hit on some guys tonight? Just a nude turtleneck. Like,
yes. And biker shorts.
But it looks good.
And clear heels. I'm wearing clear shoes.
Oh, you are. But those are cute.
And the giant jacket.
Do you do the giant jackets?
No,
okay.
No, I don't go that far. I still can't do bike shorts. I think that's like it's just not flattering. I don't know.
Well, people are wearing them like with heels and like a blazer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, how could that? Yeah, like wouldn't like a pencil skirt just like make your body better and no camel toe?
Yeah, like nobody looks good in cycling shorts. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I used to wear them when they were in the first round, like in the early 90s, and I did like them. So let's just talk a little bit about you. Like, first of all, how did you find your way to LA? Because you're not from here, right?
No. So I came out here about 10 years ago, pretty much in the height of my alcoholism and drug addiction.
Yeah. What's your story with that? Did you start as a young girl? Like, what happened with that? How did you? I
started in like junior or senior year of high school. So I wasn't very young, but it was like instantly. It just hijacked my life. I mean, I always say, like, I didn't know how uncomfortable I felt until I felt comfortable for the first time when I drank. And I was in, like, a tough relationship, and everything at 17 years old. So you're in high
school, you had, like, an intense relationship with a boy. Was he your age?
He was my,
Well, I'm
not
just saying.
Well,
I didn't know, like, so you're like, but those relationships are hard because sometimes it's like they shouldn't be that. You shouldn't be that intense, like you're practically married type of things. Those can be very difficult when you're only, a junior in high school.
17, 18 years old, and we had started dating when we were like 14, and it was so intense, and everything at that age feels magnified and like the end of the world, and your hormones are crazy, and so it was tough.
Uh-huh.
And so
where are you growing up at this point?
I grew up in Rhode Island.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So I found alcohol just, at a high school party.
What was your jam to drink?
Oh, my God. What did I drink back then? Anything, really. I mean, I went through like a Malibu rum phase.
Yeah.
Which is pretty gross. I remember getting like hammered in my car before school dances. And now I look back on it and I'm like, I must have smelled like a Hawaiian tropic or whatever those like tanning oils.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so strong. You smell it now and it's like, huh. But pretty much anything. I did not discriminate because what it did to me was like the most important thing. I was like, I will drink anything. I got to the point, I don't think I've ever shared this before, but when I was in my 20s, when it was pretty bad, where I would like wake up in the morning, I lived in this house with a guy friend, and we used to party all the time. And I would go through the empty cups from people who had been partying there. And we were in Florida, and there would be like gnats and I would strain it to get the gnats out and drink it in the morning. So, yeah. Your face. Yeah. So I didn't care.
Yeah.
I just drank it.
And just so at that point you were just drinking like all the time. Now, so was alcohol like your main thing, or did you graduate to other stuff in high school?
I graduated to other stuff because like from the beginning when I was drinking, I was that girl, the one who was blackout all the time. You couldn't take me anywhere because I was going to fall down and like be a mess. And there, I would wake up in my car alone, not knowing where I was, and wake up in the hospital, and it was just...
And was the boyfriend a boozer too?
No, not really. No, but we kind of broke up. So
okay.
So it like replaced that. And so I pretty quickly found cocaine because I was like, oh, I can drink all that more. I want and not look like the, blackout mess friend. And so that became a big part of my life. And then I needed the downer to come down.
Now, how were you affording all this stuff?
Oh,
do you come from a wealthy home and they didn't know that money was...
They weren't like extremely wealthy. We were definitely comfortable. My dad was a doctor. I definitely lied and stole and, cheated my way into...
What were you stealing? Like money out of your mom's purse and
money,
stuff like that?
Yeah. I pawned a few things. I mean, it was bad.
And did you have any other friends that were doing the coke with you, like a coke buddy?
Yeah, I had friends that were doing it. I started the coke right at the end of senior year of high school. So,
and did you have a dealer that you'd meet?
Yeah, it was pretty big. I went to private school and it was just that kind of classic stereotype, kids with kind of excess and their parents aren't around and people were, getting into drugs and alcohol. And
was it all traditional coke, lines of coke?
Yeah.
It was never getting into a crack pipe or anything?
I never did crack. I never did heroin, but I did pretty much everything else. I did meth by accident. That was
How did you do meth by accident?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not okay.
I was in Miami.
Yeah.
So I went to rehab when I was 20. That was my first rehab.
Okay, so you graduate from high school. Do you go to college?
So I went to Syracuse for a semester. But at that point,
And your parents at that point, they're like, we're so happy she's going to Syracuse? Or do they have any concerns now, girl, we know that you like to party, but this is, a place that you could go really haywire. Do they have any concern about that?
I don't think so. I think they were more concerned about... I was back with the boyfriend at that time, and so I didn't want to be at Syracuse. I wanted to go back to Rhode Island because he was still there. He was actually a year younger. And I didn't really drink or do that many drugs in Syracuse because I was going home every weekend to be with him. So they were like, you need to stay.
Which also is a really unhealthy thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just talked to a kind of a newer friend of mine, and she's your age and has a baby, early 30s. And she was telling me how she went to SC, and I went to SC, and how she, I go, oh, were you in a sorority? Did you go to football games? She's like, no. Because she had the high school boyfriend out here, which is an hour plus drive. But she came home every weekend.
Yeah.
And, and had no experience like that. So I think that's a really unhealthy thing. And I know sometimes with parents, it's hard to control that because that's what your kid likes. But God, if you can convince your kid not to be in that type of thing. It's fine if they're both in school and you're meeting up.
Right.
But the going home, and so
it's very codependent, and you're kind of missing out on that experience in life. And my parents were very concerned about that. They were like, no, you need to stay and make friends there. And everyone else was breaking up with their boyfriend at home by Thanksgiving. That's the rule that people do in college. And at that point I was like, no, I'm going to move back to Rhode Island. And so I did, and things got worse with the drinking, and then I got a DUI.
So you dropped
ended
out
up
of
in
Syracuse.
Florida. Yeah.
And were your parents like, okay, you're going to go to a JC now? Or what was your plan when you moved home?
Yeah, I took some classes. I tried to get a job. And this is the whole thing throughout my 10 years of drinking and doing drugs. I always thought if I just went back to school, if I got the right job, if I got the right apartment, if I was in the right relationship, that the alcohol would correct itself. I was so delusional. I didn't want to acknowledge the fact that all of my problems in my life were because of alcohol and drugs.
Wait, I have a question for you before we go. How do you feel about the attitude of parents? Because I've got teenagers, and complete honesty, they're not drinkers, they're not social, and COVID's killed it anyway. But I mean, I know for a fact they're not. And but I have friends whose kids are way more social and like to drink, and I've had a couple friends that say, well, I get them the white what is it? White Claws? What are they called? The
White Claw.
I get them. That's my wine cooler, right?
Yeah.
We get them the White Claws. We get them the Smirnoff on Ice. We'd rather have them drink it at the house with us, because otherwise they bring it in a water bottle thing like this, and those are the people that get more wasted than the ones that have the 2 or 3, Smirnoff on Ice things.
Right.
And me personally, I'm very terrified of being sued. I would never put myself in jeopardy like that, and my kids would never put their parents in jeopardy like that.
Right.
But how do you feel about that? Like that attitude of like, I'd rather them do it here than sneak it because they're going to do it anyway.
I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. I mean, I get it. And I had friends whose parents were like that. And they were like, I think the feeling is that you can control it, right? You can control the environment. So I don't know. I mean, I think that if you're destined to like be an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's going to happen no matter what, whether you're drinking in your parents' basement and they're supplying it to you, or if you're going out and finding it. But I don't know. It's tough.
I think it is kind of a tough decision because then I had one friend go, well, at the after prom party, they had like a room with one fridge. And it had only the White Claws and only beer.
Right.
And the kids could have that only. And no one could bring in anything else or smoke pot or anything. And I said, the only thing that would maybe make that work better is if you gave them like drink tickets.
Right.
And they only each got 2.
That's a good idea.
And then they have a little bit of a buzz. They felt like they got to drink, but
Right.
it was even more controlled. I mean, I drank in high school and then I drank in college and I talked to Alexis about this. I have alcoholics in my family. And I think because of that, I was really conscious of like, and because I love it so much, like, and I believe I've had embarrassing drunken nights, but to really like respect it because I never wanted to get to a place of like, though, however, promises sounds beautiful. I never wanted to get to that place. But then Alexis was telling me, Alexis Hayes, no, not Alexis Hayes, Haynes,
Yeah.
sorry, Alexis Haynes. She was like, but it's really based on trauma and that feeling of getting over trauma by when you are high, it feels so great that's really more of the connection of why someone does get addicted versus someone who doesn't.
Right.
And I thought that was so interesting because I never really understood it. I was like, why is it that someone does versus another? Is it in your genes? What is it? And I just thought, and she thinks it's more trauma based.
I think it's kind of like biopsychosocial. So it's
A little
of everything. But in my family, not one person on either side is an alcoholic or an addict. And I didn't have trauma when I was younger. So it's just like my wiring, I think. My solution for how uncomfortable I felt, maybe I'm super sensitive, so everything felt more magnified, was alcohol. And so that's what it was for me. And back to the parental thing, I see that kind of as like harm reduction. Like you can reduce the risk, right, of them going out and getting something different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So like getting back to your story. Okay, so you come home and you're just like taking some classes, and are you living at your house?
No, I got an apartment. I was taking classes, but a bunch of my friends...
And are you still drinking and doing coke?
Drinking and doing coke, and a bunch of my friends went to Brown. I was living in Providence, and they were like crazy partiers. And so I would like go sit in class at Providence College, that's where I was going, and be like, screw this, I'm going to go party with them. And I would just leave. So like I couldn't... It was all I cared about.
Yeah.
All I cared about. It was like I always say it was like my primary occupation.
And
that
like,
was my
when
focus.
you'd go and leave your friends, did you kind of have it in your head like, okay, I need 2 shots, 2 beers to get to that spot where I'm like, all right, now me. Like, did you have a formula?
It was a few lines.
Okay.
and
how much? I never know how much coke costs because I've never tried coke in my life. Don't mean to brag, I've been offered. I'm a pretty cute girl. But I never have because I was very weary of what coke would do. And I always thought that would be the drug I'd love the most, being that you curbs your appetite, keeps you up, makes you want to talk about
very
yourself.
Social. Yes.
Yeah. I love it. It's very, and I always say I love coke movies. Like I love the genre of film about cocaine, about selling it, buying it. The suitcase walking to the private jet of someone being a huge drug dealer with that Rolling Stones song playing in the back, which has been used like 50 times. Yeah. I love it. I love it as a main character in a movie.
Yeah. In reality, though.
Yes, tell me reality. And how much does 2 lines cost?
Well, so you would buy probably a gram, which I don't know about today. I think back then it was like $60 maybe.
Okay.
And it could last me a couple nights, probably.
And did you have like a nice drug dealer that you could meet at Starbucks, or did you have to go to a gross neighborhood to get it?
I had pretty nice drug dealers.
Okay.
Yeah. But the reality of cocaine, for me at least, was like, 6 or 7 in the morning. You're sitting there with like the 2 people that are still up. Everyone is just talking over each other about the stupidest shit. Everyone thinks that what they're saying is the most groundbreaking, important thing in the world. You're chain smoking cigarettes. You look like a effing disaster.
Yeah.
The birds are starting to chirp. People are going to work. You're like, oh my God, what have I done? It's just
Then that's
so
when
dark.
That's when you get depressed. That's when you're
so
like,
dark.
yeah. Because I've heard this from my friends that because coke has made a fun comeback in the mom world. Believe it or not,
Really?
like in
Ooh.
the last 5-6 years, I've heard
Wow.
there's couples that, oh, there's coke at the party, or there's, a little bit of coke happening for like suburban normal people. And they're not getting addicted. It's like the
Right.
one fun time. But I've also heard that it's the next day is so depressing.
So depressing, yeah. So I got really into Xanax because that would help
With the
me
depression.
kind of come down.
Oh,
And then I
okay.
would take a little in the morning because it would kind of gloss
Take a little
over.
Xanax or a little coke?
A little Xanax in the
Okay.
morning, yeah. But then, of course, I needed the Adderall to like get me up so that I could be functioning. But then the Adderall made me like too speedy. So then I would have to drink a little wine. It was very exhausting.
And did you lose weight? Like, were you?
I was a rail. Yeah. I was tiny.
And
probably like 90
at this
pounds.
point, are your parents concerned?
Yeah. So I got a DUI when I was like 20. It was February or March in Rhode Island. And they were like, you can go to rehab in Florida. And I was like, say no more. And so I went to Florida. I ended up staying there for like 4 or 5
Florida?
years.
Like, I never understood that from the intervention shows.
Yeah.
I always just figured they had a contract with someone.
And like you
But
could
I'm
not
like, why
pick
do you
a
always
worse
have to,
place.
But why do you also have to get on a plane to go to a rehab?
Yeah.
Like, it was always someone in Florida was going to North Carolina. Like,
Right.
why? Isn't there someplace closer by?
And then you get drunk on the plane. Yeah. Well, I think I had the option of going to one in Boston,
Okay.
but it was cold and it
Yeah,
was
and you're like,
gross. And
oh,
I was like,
okay.
I want to go to Florida.
Oh, I got it. Okay, so you go
Yeah.
to Florida because that's
I went
cute.
I went to Florida. I went through rehab. I ended up staying there for like 4 or 5 years. Really dark. I mean, nothing good happens in Florida.
But were you sober then after that
No,
rehab?
no,
Oh,
no,
so you get
no.
out of rehab and you start using again.
Yes.
The same stuff.
Same thing, but it got progressively worse.
And
the
what are you
people-
living off of? Are your parents sending you money or what?
I got some money.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm rich and I'm going to be a socialite. And like in my head, I truly thought that I was going to be like Paris Hilton, like she was big
Yeah.
at that time. It's so sad when I think back to it now. And then I would get a job.
What part of
and
Florida were you living
I
in?
was in Delray Beach.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I've done a show there. Yeah.
And then I got
It's
a job
cute.
bartending. And this
Okay.
was like the ideal situation because I was dating the guy who owned the bar.
Yeah.
It was like encouraged to drink and I could do drugs and everyone that went there were our friends and we broke all the rules. I don't know how he stayed open without getting in legal trouble because it was, it's underage drinking and over serving and it
Right.
was just a shit show. Eventually I got fired from that because I couldn't show up at like 6 o'clock at night
Uh-huh.
a few times a week. And I was trying to take classes.
And
And
how did
stuff,
your
and-
parents, being that you're the daughter of a doctor,
Mm.
feeling about you just being a bartender in Florida and, doesn't seem the dream that they had for their blonde,
no,
blue-eyed delight.
No. I was a monster. I wasn't a delight at that time, but they were heartbroken, I think.
Do you have siblings?
I have an older brother, and he's always been like on the straight and narrow path. He lives in D.C., has had the same job for 15 years. He's married. He has a kid. He has another on the way.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I think with alcoholics and addicts, the family wants to think the best.
Right.
So I was lying to them about how bad it was. They didn't know. I told them that I was in school. I was for a while. And I just tried to kind of gloss it over, and they wanted to hope the best, but they were very depressed during that time.
Would they come to visit you in Delray Beach?
Occasionally, yeah. And I think they were just like, what are you doing? But I
Yeah.
was 20, in my early 20s. They couldn't really do a whole lot.
Right.
And they would bail me out when I would get in trouble and crash my car and this, that, and the other. And they paid for my apartment. And, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They didn't have experience with this. And I was very manipulative. And they just wanted the best for me. And I think they even said, they felt like if they put a roof over my head, like it would keep me alive somehow.
Right.
So it's very dark.
Okay, so you're in Delray Beach. You're partying with the boss. Okay, then what happens?
So my friend actually ended up getting killed, and I found her.
How?
How did she get killed?
Yeah.
She got shot. Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, in her apartment.
By whom?
A guy that she was kind of seeing. It was.
Did he get caught?
Yeah, he got caught like the next day.
So he killed her because it was like a crime of passion?
There was some kind of altercation, he said, and I don't know.
I need a gun on him?
Yeah.
It's his gun?
Yeah.
And you found her. How did were you checking up on her or are you totally surprised?
Somebody called me and asked to check up on her and didn't tell me why. So I was just like, la la la, okay, I'm gonna go check on her. Like, what's the big deal? And I ended up going in and finding her, and that was like a turning point. And my parents at that point were like,
you saw everything.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that must be like.
Yeah.
You know, I always think about like first responders and stuff. I don't think people think about the first responders enough.
I know, and it's crazy because
especially when they walk into like any kind of murder scene, but also like a mass shooting or stepping over people. Like I can't.
I mean, this was 10 years ago, and I'm
you just
still
see
in
it.
trauma therapy. I mean, I kept drinking for a few years after that to like numb it out, and then I got sober, and it didn't really come up. And recently, it's been coming up a little bit, and I'm like, this is like one time in my life, you know, how do people go through that every single day? I mean, like first responders, doctors, all of that. You have to be a certain kind of breed, I think, to be able to just like leave it at the job and go home and go to bed at night, you know.
And so were you part of like the trial or anything?
It was crazy how it happened because over the years I would get subpoenaed to go testify. And at this point I was like a freaking mess. I was having seizures from alcohol and from withdrawal. And I was just like, the drinking took on a new meaning. It was like a survival thing and to cope with the trauma, I think. And I would get subpoenaed, and there's no way that I would ever be able to get on a plane and show up in that stage.
For the initial trial to convict him? So it took a couple years, or is this to like show up to keep him in jail?
I think it was to convict him.
Okay.
He confessed. So they kind of had everything that they needed. He tried to kill himself in jail. So then it got postponed, and it just kept getting postponed. And then when I was in rehab for the last time, when I finally got sober 6.5 years ago.
And where was that city?
In Utah. And you'll love this. I chose it because it's where Lindsay Lohan went. That was my North Star at the time. And so I got subpoenaed when I was there. So random. So at like 30 days sober, I had to fly out to Florida and, you know, go through crime scene pictures and relive the whole thing and sit there this far away from the guy and testify. And it was, I mean, I was like sweating. I was so nervous.
And were you just testifying on the fact of that morning of finding her, or did you have to testify about the relationship?
No, I had to testify about finding her. And even though the guy confessed, his defense still tried to mess with me. So they were like, well, you said that the person who worked in the building came up there with you, but then you said that the police officer, and I'm like, really? I'm traumatized. Like, I don't remember the order of who walked through the door first, if it was the EMT or if it was the police officer, but they were trying to
just
trip
post
me up.
some holes and
yeah. But I did it, and you know, her family was there, and there was an old woman there, and she was like, this guy killed it was like her nephew or her grandson or something, like 30 years before, and he never got convicted.
The same guy?
Yeah.
How old was this guy?
He was maybe in like his 50s.
Oh, why was she dating? She was dating an older guy.
Yeah.
And was he like a wealthy guy, or was he just like a...
I don't know. She was... I don't want to say anything bad about her, but she was doing the same stuff that I was, and like
so she's just running around with bad people.
Yeah. But yeah, so the old woman like thanked me, and she was like, "Thank you. I've been waiting to like see justice." And I was like, "Oh my God!" And that was the first time that I really felt it, I think.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So then, after Utah and after this trauma's, you know, to a point behind you, then what happened?
So my parents pretty much took me away from Florida. I ended up coming out to LA to visit a friend, and I never left. I was so
And
aimless.
at this point, what were your like career aspirations? I mean, now
I
you're
didn't
sober.
have any. Oh. Well, this is before I got sober. So I
Okay.
got sober 6.5 years ago, and I actually.
Oh wait,
ended up-
so you came to LA not sober?
yeah.
Okay, so and what was that like?
It was well. First, I was in
I mean,
Orange
do you have
County.
some fun? Do you have some fun boozing stories?
I'm such like Debbie Downer. Like, and then I had a seizure and my friend died. I don't know. Like, I was living in West Hollywood.
So wait, first you said you started in Orange County or West Hollywood?
I started in Orange County. I was living in Newport Beach.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it was fun, I guess.
Okay. Were you working? Were you dating anyone there?
I was dating a guy who was older than me.
Did he have a boat?
He didn't have a boat.
Oh, okay.
But we lived on the peninsula.
Oh, you lived with him?
No, I lived with my girlfriends.
Okay.
And it was like a 24/7 party. Like, everybody down there, you know, they were like surfer bros that were like 45, and like just everybody was drinking every day, and it's a totally different lifestyle down there. And then I met somebody up in LA, and I moved up with him, and at this point I got a job, and I stopped like doing all the crazy drinking. I was like having a glass of wine at night, and I was going to my job, and I was living with this guy.
What was your job?
I was working for like a PR kind of marketing company, and for like a few months I was like, I've done it. I've beat alcoholism.
Right.
And like, I got the relationship and the job, and I have this apartment, and then one day I remember being on my lunch break at this job, and I was like, I'm just going to go to 7-Eleven or like Circle K and get those mini bottles of wine. It's a totally good idea.
Like in the middle of the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Like on a Tuesday.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have to go back to your little desk.
Yeah. And the thought came from nowhere. I mean, it's just crazy. And
what did you get, like Sutton Home or something? What kind of little wine?
Yeah, the little 6-packs or 4-packs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that, and then that just started me again, like on this path.
So were you hiding it at work?
I was hiding it at work. It got to the point where then I would go, I would like meet up with the boyfriend, and we would go do like shots of Patron on my lunch break.
What did he do for a living?
He was a graphic designer.
And then
but
when
he
he
was
go back
working
to
from
his
home.
office?
Well, he was working from home. Yeah. So it became very unmanageable.
And when you're with someone like that, do either one of you go, okay, you know, it's like the days of wine and roses where it's like a couple codependent drink. Like, does anyone go, okay, now tomorrow, neither of us are going to drink, or tomorrow we're only going to have one drink? Like, was there ever that kind of like pact or trying to help each other?
So he was very functional. I was not so much functional, but yeah, I mean, we would try to have weekends where we'd be like, okay, we're not going to like do coke and stay up all night this weekend. Mm-hmm. We're going to just like drink wine and watch a movie. And then we would, you know, black out and not watch a movie. But no, it was a very
a lot of people do that
toxic,
when you start a movie.
Yeah.
You don't even have
just,
to have a drink, but yeah.
Yeah. It was just unhealthy. I mean, no, we weren't really like encouraging one another to like pump the brakes or anything.
Yeah.
So he ended up moving out. He was like, this ship is sinking and I gotta go. So he moved out. He took like all the furniture with him. I was living in this apartment in West Hollywood with like just my bed.
Did you still have your job?
No.
They had to let you go?
I actually, I went in on a Monday and we had like our company meeting, and I was so hungover. I had the worst headache. I was so nauseous. I had been up all night the night before, and I was like, you know what? I'm done. Yeah.
You just got your stuff and left?
Left, yeah. And I never went back. And that was like my MO though. Like if it wasn't comfortable for me, like I wasn't going to do it, you know?
Right.
And so from December 2013 to February 2014, it was like a couple month blackout. I was in this apartment ordering wine from Pink Dot.
Pink Dot, I remember that.
Yeah, it was like before Postmates. I didn't want to have contact. I didn't want to talk to anyone on the phone, so I could order it on my computer. And very, very dark. And my family ended up...
What's your wine of choice?
Oh my God. At that point, it was whatever was cheapest.
So rosé, red, white, didn't matter?
Usually white. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it didn't really matter.
Uh-huh.
So my family was like, this is really bad. We're going to try one last time to get her help. And so they flew out and they showed up at my apartment, and I opened the door and dropped and had a seizure.
But
like you
after
can't-
seeing them?
Yes, I opened the door and had a grand mal seizure.
Oh my God.
And that was it.
And your dad, the doctor, knew what to do.
He knew what to do. I mean, they couldn't get me out of it. It was a pretty long one. And
Now, what do you mean a seizure? Like you're dropping and you're shaking and your eyes are going back in your head? Mm-hmm. And what are you supposed to do if you witness someone do that?
I think you're supposed to make sure that they're not near anything that they can hit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Sometimes you give them something to bite on so that they don't bite through their tongue.
Oh.
Yeah, very scary. So I ended up going to Cedars. I was there for like 4 days until they could stabilize me. And they were like, do you want to go to rehab in Malibu or this place in Arizona that I had already been to?
Yeah.
Or Utah? And I was like, it's so funny because I don't remember.
So how many places had you been to?
4.
Florida, Arizona. Where were the other 2?
Orange County.
Oh, Orange County before
Detoxes.
West Hollywood. You went to
Yeah.
Orange County one.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was the difference between, like, are they similar? Like, do you get your notebook out and you go to group meetings? Like, does some have better yoga classes than others? Like, what is the difference? And also, do the parents pay? Do you have insurance? Like, how do people pay for this stuff?
So it varies. I mean, the ones that I had been going to, I was lucky because my parents were paying a lot. I think insurance was paying some. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were paying because every time they thought like, okay, this is going to be it. They were so hopeful. You know, the place had a great reputation and they had all these, art, painting, therapy and whatever. And so.
And is every stint 30 days or 28 days?
So it depends on insurance. That's where they get that 30, 60, 90 days. It's just based on insurance. It's not like evidence-based that like you're going to be cured in this amount of time, which is too bad. So this time I ended up going to Utah because Lindsay Lohan and the Olsons and a few other people. And I was
the
like,
Olsons went there too?
Mary Kate Olsen.
Oh, I never even knew she had a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is she the one
eating disorder?
Is she the one who's eating disorder? Mm-hmm. So they did that as well.
Yes.
Is she the one that's divorcing the French guy? Or is she
I
the
think
other
that's
one?
Ashley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's hard to
Okay,
tell.
so she went there, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that's very chic. So I'm going to go there. And I ended up being there for 90 days. And then I came down to Orange County and went to another all-women's place for another 90 days. And then I went to sober living for 6 months in LA. So sober living was like just a sober environment that you live in, like a nice
Where was
house.
that?
It was in Santa Monica.
Uh-huh.
And I got a job. And I got kind of my foundation in recovery. And I knew this time that it was different because I had run my life so completely far into the ground that I had no other options. I was like,
And
I
at
know.
this point, it's almost like a whole year of recovery.
Yeah.
Because you did the 90, and then the 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like before I had
Now,
gone.
these sober living houses, like, is it people similar to yourself, or do you get, I'm just being totally frank, do you get like some people that just, are prison, like just came from prison, or like, is it all like a certain level of people because it's Santa Monica?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, yes, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I was at was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was people like me. There were a lot of younger people,
Mm-hmm.
like late teens, early 20s, who did not want to be sober at all, did not want to be there. And I just tried to kind of keep my head down and, get active in my recovery program. And I got a little job working on Montana Avenue in Santa Monica, like at a little boutique.
Oh, I love that street. So cute. Yeah.
And it was crazy. Like I had no more car. I had no apartment. I had no money. I had nothing. I would walk to my job. That was it. I would work 6 days a week.
And when you like applied for the job, do you tell them I'm living at the sober living house? I'm sober. Or?
I don't think I told them. No.
Yeah.
But I was so happy. Like, I was so happy. I remember when I finally bought my first car, I would drive to work and just like cry because I was like, I have like valid registration and I'm not drunk and I'm going to my job. And like, I felt like a useful member of society. So,
okay. So then what happens?
So I ended up going back to school for substance abuse counseling. I did like a 2-year thing. And I ended up working with this group of clinicians who work with families of people in recovery. And I thought that was like going to be my life. I was so passionate about recovery and I went all in. And a couple years into it, I was like, okay, I want to get in shape. because I felt like I went from super skinny before I got sober, and then I got sober and I kind of gained weight. I've always been small, but so I started doing this online workout program, and you're encouraged to start an Instagram account.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I don't want people to know my name and I don't want to show my face. So I'm going to call it the Blonde Files and just, crop my face out and take my before and after pictures and do this workout program. And so that's when the Instagram account started. That was 2016. And it just kind of like picked up and started growing really fast at that time. And so eventually I like told people my name and and I got to a point where I was like kind of disillusioned with working in recovery. It's just most people don't want to get sober.
Yeah.
And I felt like my whole life was recovery because I'm in this recovery program, which I love, but then I was doing that all the time, and I had this kind of side thing on Instagram, and I felt like I could reach more people through that. And so that's when I made the decision to do that full time. And so I started doing my Instagram account, monetizing it, and I started my blog. And a couple years into it, then I started my podcast, and that's where I am today. Except now I'm back in school, and I'm like,
you are? What are you studying?
I'm finishing my undergrad.
Oh, okay. Where are you going? Just online, obviously, but
I'm taking classes. Well, I started going to ASU online, and then I decided I want to transfer to UCLA, so I'm taking classes at SMC.
Okay.
And majoring in psych, but I'm taking all the science classes that I would need if I want to go on to like med school.
Yeah.
Or like dietetics or something.
So you meet your husband. You said you met
Yes.
like just through mutual friends. How many years ago?
So we met like 5 years ago. I was maybe a year and a half sober.
Uh-huh.
We knew each other just casually for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think there's like a vibe there,
Yeah.
but I don't know. And I was like in therapy, like, do I have a daddy issue? Like, this is
Because
weird.
he is so much older.
Yes, he's so much older.
Yeah.
And one
He's
thing,
67 and you're 33 now, right?
35.
Oh, you're 35.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Yes. So I knew that he would never make a move.
uh-huh.
He's shy, and I could just tell that he was like didn't want to be the creepy older guy. So so I was like, okay, I'm going to give him my number. And I gave him my number, and we went out a couple nights later, and that was it. We both just kind of knew.
Really?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you tell your parents after they've been to hell and back, I'm in love with Chuck Lorre. He's worth so much fucking money. He's also like respected and is like a funny, smart guy. He's older, but like I've hit the fucking jackpot. I mean, then the parents like, I mean, what is that like when your daughter really hits the jackpot in the marriage department?
They were not thrilled.
Oh.
In the beginning. No. They were scared. I think that's the word that they used.
Because it was just like another Hollywood story that could go awry.
Yes,
maybe.
and they were like, why are you doing this? Like, what are you doing?
Like, did you move in quickly and stuff? Like, did you move into his home quickly, or how?
So I told them that I was seeing him, and they were like, this is weird. I don't know. We're worried about you. That's always the worst. I'm like, oh, God.
Because
and then
when
when
you started to date him, then you were just like 30, but he was 60, which is a huge difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's weird, though. In recovery, I have friends who are like 90. I mean, you just have friends like all different ages, and we have this kind of common bond. So it doesn't feel weird, but from the outside. So my parents came out here a few months into us dating, and they met him, and they saw us together.
Is he older than your dad?
I think they're the same age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put it that way.
Yeah.
But they saw us together, and they met him, and they fell in love with him. And they were like, oh, it's not weird.
Yeah.
So then they were super supportive. And I think they were just worried that, like, he was just going to use me up and toss me out, which is so not how he is.
That you were just going to be the, the trophy wife.
Right.
Because you're the third wife.
He jokes. He's like, he came on my podcast, and I was like, people think I'm a trophy wife. He's like, well, you are. He's like, no, you're my medallion. So we're like in on the joke. Like, we know what it looks like.
The cliche of it.
Yeah. And we were, I mean, in the beginning, we were like, the age difference is either going to be an issue or it's not. Like, we're either going to have to like deal with it. And he and I both felt like We're not going to let other people's opinions dictate how we live. And we're like, let's go for it. I mean,
and
so
what
we
is
did.
it like going from being the shop girl who's so excited to have her own car on Montana Street to being, I mean, we're talking incredible wealth.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? That you know that you can walk in and get anything you want. If you want to go on a private jet tomorrow and invite me, I'm free.
You're down.
Like, what is that? How is that not? I don't know how to say. Like, I think it's great, but I also think it must be very weird to not like go into a room and do a fucking dance by yourself.
I have to say, so he didn't come with all the trappings of Hollywood, I guess I'll say. Like,
Okay.
he could not care less about like the jets and boats and cars and like, yes, there are like nice homes and cars and that kind of stuff, but he's so like down to earth and so humble, and he's not like a frivolous spender or anything like that. So, you know, we're not in a big giant mansion. Like, it's a nice house, but it's not maybe what you'd imagine if you knew how much, you know.
Yeah.
So it never felt like I was going from one extreme to another. It just felt like I don't know. It always felt kind of normal.
I mean, because he's like that, is it also that you have to be, because you want him to, you know, you always want it to be, hey, I'm not with you because of this money, but is it, I always wonder, is it a hard position to be in? Because I have a couple friends like you that are third wives that are married to very successful older people. And I always wonder, like, where does it go where it's like, oh, hey, I'm going to go take 5 girlfriends with me because I feel like it. But you don't want to be like that because, you know, like you still have to respect the fact that the money for this trip with your girlfriends is coming from your husband who made it before you ever came along. Like, how do you...
I never do that, ever.
So we're not going on a trip?
I mean, I've been working on him. I'm dying to go somewhere, but...
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's funny because I think back to when I was younger and I always thought, like, I'm going to make it one day and I'm going to have this and that and the other. And I thought that, like, I wanted this big, grand life. I always had these dreams of, like, grandiosity.
Yeah.
And then I got in a situation where that's possible. And I was like, oh, that's not who I am, like, at all. Like, I have a few nice bags and shoes and stuff, but, like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be a Kardashian. I'm not going to, like, do the, you know, squatting Gen Z pose in front of my cars and, like, show my closet.
So you've
and, like,
never
all this
taken
stuff.
a full ass photo?
No. No.
You have not taken your bikini bottom, shoved them up your asshole, turned around.
I think I did once.
And smiled.
I think I did once.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
I forgive you.
But not in front of my cars. Like,
Okay, not in front of your cars. And not with like a bunch of purses.
No.
Like posed behind you.
And that's something... I think that comes from like a place of scarcity. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think like when you're doing that, you're looking for validation. And I actually got to a point where I don't feel comfortable showing my closet. I don't feel comfortable showing the house. I don't feel comfortable, you know, so I don't know. I think I'm kind of sensitive to like how that comes across. And
well, have people, being that you have your own little, you know, your own following on Instagram, and when people do know that who you're married to and stuff, do you get just some random hate of someone that's got 0 followers that are just out to just say shit about you because they're like mean and jealous?
I've gotten it a few times, but like very sporadically. I mean, for the most part, I think a lot of people who follow me don't know who he is, don't know how successful he is.
Yeah.
And so, and don't really care. Like
Yeah.
the majority of them don't care. The worst that I ever got was, I think maybe 2 years ago, he said something political at the end of one of his shows. He does vanity cards where he writes something and you have to pause it to read it. And he's very outspoken about his political beliefs. And Fox News ran a story about that. And they linked my Instagram to it. So, which is just giving red meat. Whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was supposed to make you be outraged, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's married to someone half his age and he's saying this and blah, blah, blah. And so I got like just a barrage of the craziest shit you've ever heard all over my Instagram, people commenting, and everybody was like, just don't look. And I'm like, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Like, these people are crazy. I can't not see it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I like texted someone at Warner Brothers Publicity, and I was like, I don't know what to do. This is like such a scandal.
Yeah.
I thought that, like, you know, the world.
No, but when it's happening to you,
Yeah,
it
it
really
feels-
is very upsetting. And you really, even though you're alone in your house with just your iPhone, you feel like there's people with torches
Yeah.
at your front door.
Yes.
And you feel, and you, of course, you can go off of it, and of course, you can block people, and of course, you can put away your phone. But it's very hard to do that.
Yes.
Because you start to get sucked into it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And the majority of the time, I can look at it rationally and say, well, what these people are saying is more of a reflection about them than, you know, it says nothing about me and everything about them. But still, like, I'm human.
Yeah.
So that was tough. But of course, after a day, you know, it moved on as the news cycle moved on. So that's really occasionally.
When something like that happens, is your husband Chuck like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry you're even getting 1 second of this shit. Who cares? Like, what's his attitude?
He's like, just do not give it any energy. Like, this is going to pass in a day. Like, who cares?
Right. Because he's been through so much of this type of stuff.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
he doesn't have social media. He's like, oh, I think if I went on Twitter, I would be dragged. And I was like, yeah, you are. Don't look. So he's just kind of like, well, that's what you get for putting yourself out there. So, like, you have to just turn a blind eye to it and ignore. Like, if you listen to these people, you know, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And he's always like, this is exactly why I don't have social media. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I think
if someone doesn't need it, like
Yeah.
when people, you know, I'm like, hey, it's the greatest and the best thing that's ever happened for someone like me, you know, but there's no way that you and I can't have it doing what we're doing.
Right.
So, but he doesn't need to have it.
No.
You know, he doesn't need to tell people that he's wearing a Hugo Boss shirt. He doesn't.
I
You
know.
know? So it's like, why would you? Like,
Yeah.
anybody that doesn't have to have it should just not.
Especially now, it's getting so crazy. And I think that it's almost trendy to be like mean. Like, the snarkier comment, the better.
Yeah.
And you want to get attention, and the loudest voice gets all the attention. And I mean, there have been times, especially this summer, and as I've gotten more busy with school and stuff, where I'm like, I would just delete it if I could. Like, I really would. Do the podcast, which I love, but like the Instagram stuff, like, I'm not trying to sell you my skincare routine. I don't want to like be talking to my phone all day. Like, I
mean, it's exhausting, and it's like, you know, even like a weekend away, like I'm in Mammoth and I have to, you know, cover it with Kelly. Like, okay, we have these things going on with the swipe up for the special, and then Kelly's like, and remember to take a few photos yourself. I'm like, oh, just leave me alone. Like, but it's true. You kind of have to do it, and sometimes it's fun and you want to, but then there's this also, people don't realize, because they think like all influencers' life is so easy. But I'm like, the time that you have to think about, and the hours, and you wake up and then you look at other people's, and it, you know, for a lot of people it is essential to their job, but it is a pain in the ass, and it is like, you know, why people hire other people just to do that for them and answer for them and everything. And yeah, I can see that. But like, okay, so let me ask a couple more things.
Okay.
So I know you weren't together during the crazy Charlie Sheen Tiger Blood stuff, because Chuck created and is the, you know, the owner, whatever you call it, the producer, everything of 2.5 Men, which is the biggest sitcom that had ever hit at that point. Can you tell me anything of what that was like for him? Because we saw that it was like, and then now we're watching, you know, Denise. Do you watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or anything?
I haven't in a while. So I've been listening to your show, and I was going to catch up this weekend, but I watched your special instead, and so I need to catch up on it.
Well, for people that don't know, Charlie Sheen was on this hit sitcom, 2.5 Men. It was like the biggest. I mean, everybody loved it. My parents loved it. And he started to lose his mind and went on Twitter and saying shit about everybody, including your husband. And, you know, the people that were like watching this at night that loved this show was like, but it's Charlie. Like, they just like loved him so much. And he basically went crazy, said that he had tiger blood in him. I mean, this is like a juicy scoop history. Oh my God. And then he went and did a live show.
You should do this. In
Yeah.
history.
I have to go down this road. And poor Denise Richards is like, got the kids. And then she takes in the other twins from his other wife that she had. She's been to
Brooke.
rehab like 28 times.
Yeah.
What is his opinion? Like, what can you say? I know you can't speak for him, but what was that like?
I think it was the hardest thing he's probably ever been through because he was trying to help him.
Yeah.
And, it's like back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, you can't, there's only so much that you can do. And he didn't want help from what it seems like. And he was so off the deep end. And then he was saying these things about Chuck, and Chuck became kind of a tabloid person, and they were camped outside of the house. And Chuck doesn't want to be famous.
Right.
He doesn't want to be in headlines. He's so intensely private. So I think it was that aspect of it was such a violation to him, having people at the house and paparazzi, and he didn't want any of it. He's like, writing and producing is the greatest job because you can.
Right.
Nobody knows who you are.
He's in the writer's room. He's not,
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that I think that's one of the reasons why when you say, he is so successful, but the way he lives his life is so different than other people with that kind of money, because it is different than movies. It is different. A sitcom world can be extremely lucrative, but it's also like very regimented and normal, especially when it's filmed on a sound, like with a live audience. So it's like, it's the Monday through Friday. It's like people would say the sitcom is the Baker hours, like of entertainment, and it is a more normal life, and you can have a family, and you can have your breaks, and your family can come watch the tapings, and it can be such a great job,
right. And then you can go out and people don't know who you are,
right.
And so I think that was the hardest part for him. And then the things that were being said, and he's like, this is crazy and this is not what's happening at all. And so it's made him even more private and even more, he shies away from so much publicity, and he doesn't want to do certain things because he knows that it's going to be spun to get a headline, and he wants no part of it.
Yeah.
No.
And obviously we've been, in Corona, and you guys, there's been no TV tapings or anything. Can you share, like, are they going to be able to do these shows coming up?
I think they're planning on it. He's been writing this whole time, and for the Netflix show.
What's the Netflix show?
The Kaminsky Method. It's Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin.
Oh, cool.
They're going, he's writing for the 3rd season, and that's been his baby. Because, he's done the sitcom thing for 30 years, 35 years. And this is something totally different for him. And they won Golden Globes, and it's been very well received. So he's been working on that. And I think as far as Warner Brothers goes, they're just waiting till they can open safely. But, you think about how many people go onto a lot every day.
Yeah.
Even if they can test everybody, like, how are they going to test all the extras? And everybody goes home at night, and then they go to the grocery store, and they go, so I think that they're not, I think they said August, then they said September, then they just don't know. Yeah. So he's like, I'm writing, and I don't know if this is ever going to see the light of day, but they're all acting as if. So they're in writers' rooms and Zoom writers' rooms, yeah.
Oh. So they're writing, like, the Mom episodes and everything.
Yeah, Mom, Young Sheldon, Kaminsky Method.
Young Sheldon's going to be old Sheldon by the time.
I know. It's true. It's true.
Gosh, yeah. I don't know. It's such a weird time. Did you guys have a big wedding?
No, we had 32 people. I didn't want a big wedding. I wanted to go to the courthouse and elope, and we ended up doing something in New York, where we rented out this restaurant. It's like this gorgeous courtyard, little Italian restaurant right in the West Village, like just so quaint and perfect. And we had, excuse me, 32 friends and family, and it was like a big dinner party.
And are you close with his kids and everything?
Yeah, we're all good. His daughter's here and works with him, and they've been super welcoming to me always. So.
And do you want to have kids of your own?
I don't think so. I never have. I don't want to say never because I feel like because I got sober at 28, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm hitting milestones of life a little bit later, where I'm like, well, I'm back in college now. And so right now I wouldn't want them, but I don't want to wake up in 5 years and want them and not have the option. So
is he a grandfather yet?
Yeah. You know what? Alexis texted me.
You're the hot step grandma.
Out of the blue one day, she goes, wait, are you a GILF? I was like, why? Where did that come from? And yes, I am.
But I would always say that. I was like, people need to realize, like, if you are that girl that's marrying a guy that already has kids and you're fine not having them, it's kind of great because I'm like your hot step grandma. Like, you can still hang out, have some access to some like cute toddlers,
right?
And get to experience the family life. And if you're fine with that, then it's like the best of all the worlds.
Well, and my brother has a kid, and they have another on the way, and he's the cutest, and so I have them. And I mean, I went to visit them last fall, and I was like, I could never do this. I mean, I stayed with them. They have a 2-year-old. And at like 5 o'clock, I was like, I have to go to bed. Like, this is exhausting. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm not there. Like, I think I'm too selfish.
Well, I mean, I think I always say it's like such a gift if you've kind of never had the desire and you've always known that you didn't want them.
Yeah.
Of course, your minds can change, but I always remember that my one friend said, she's like, you're the only person that hasn't given me shit for not wanting kids. I'm like, because I have them. Like, like, it's okay. And then if you want them and it doesn't come easily, that's such a heartbreak. And then for the rest of your life, you're worried about these people. Like, I also remember watching this special where they said, who's going to look the best, at 55? Is it the mom with 5 kids? Is it the one that runs every day? Or is it the one that doesn't have children or whatever? And it was the one that doesn't have children. Mm-hmm. Your sleep's never disturbed.
Yeah.
But
you look amazing. You look amazing.
Thank
and you
you.
have
but
2, right?
I have 3, actually, because I have a stepdaughter. But, like, I just think the worrying is what people don't think about.
Yeah.
Because it goes on forever and it never stops. Yeah. And your mind goes to the worst places. And if you are not a parent, that's just something that you are never going to have to incorporate into your psyche. And it's just, I mean, there's obviously great joy and everything. Mm-hmm. But the other side of it is this incredible stress and worry that.
Yeah, and I'm an anxious person, and I worry a lot, and I think it would just be very detrimental to my health.
I mean, it's good.
And I saw, like, what I did to my parents, and, I mean, when I got sober, my parents looked haggard. Like, my mom looked haggard, and now they look 15 years younger because they don't have the stress of this, like, crazy daughter who they think is going to die every day, and...
I can't imagine what that's like. And then, this is the 3rd rehab. Oh, this time it'll work. Mm-hmm. And also knowing that, there's other people that either have to do this for their own mental health or they get the advice of being like, tough love, goodbye.
Right.
And they let their kid, go on the street. And I'm not criticizing those people. It's really, really hard. How much can you give? Or maybe they have other children or other responsibilities and they finally go, we just can't do it anymore. And how that's, horrible too for them, but it's just,
And that's technically like what everyone recommends to do. Cut them off and save yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it just consumes every day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you are doing great.
Thank you.
And I'm open to going on trips. I'm open to a sitcom when it comes back. But I'm excited because I'm actually going to be on your podcast, which is better than my own Chuck Lorre sitcom. But this was really fun, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And for everybody, follow her. What's your Instagram?
At Arielle Lorre.
And then the podcast is The Blonde Files, and it's really good. And we were listening to it too, and I love it. And I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I'll let you know when I'm going on a trip.
Okay.